Let us start formally. On behalf of our Board of Governors, my faculty and staff, and on my own behalf, I welcome you all to this lecture series of GIDS Institute of Development Studies in the Golden Jubilee monthly lecture series. So we are celebrating our Golden Jubilee since August, and we have started this monthly lecture series, which we will have 12 numbers, and then we would like to compile it as a good publication once the lecture series is complete. Also, we are organizing 106th annual conference of the Indian Economic Association, which is very near now. 27th, 29th December we are hosting at Giri, and we have many plenary sessions, and many important people are coming in the conference. Almost gathering is expected to be 300. So I also welcome you all to join that seminar conference, annual conference as well. So without wasting further time, we have our 2.5 hours till 5:30. We'll try to complete the monthly lecture series. The fifth one is going to be delivered by Dr. Arjunan Subramanian. My friend, for long we have been together. We worked sometime together in NCAR. We were also together in GIDS for some time. And then Subbu left for Germany. He did his PhD on BT cotton from Germany and then joined Glasgow. So a brief profile of Dr. Subramanian is professor in economics at Adam Smith Business School, University of Glasgow, having previously been based in the University of Warwick. He held positions at the University of Göttingen, the Center for Development Research, GIDS, it is known as, the University of Brown, and the National Council of Applied Economic Research in New Delhi, India, where fortunately today's chair has also worked there. He attended his PhD in the University of Ulm, Germany, having previously studied at Jawaharlal Nehru University, New Delhi, and Madras University in India. He has won several grants and awards, including the Research Medal for Outstanding Research on Development 2001 by the Global Development Network, GDN. At that time, he was in NCAR, I know. And the award for Outstanding Journal Article by the American Agriculture Economics Association. He has publication in high-impact multidisciplinary journals like Nature, Biotechnology and Science, and disciplinary development journal like Journal of Development Economics, World Development, and Journal of Development Studies. He has many crowns to his credit. He's a shy person who writes very small briefs about himself. I'm very happy to introduce the chair, today's chair, Professor Prem S. Vasisht, who was the former Director of Agriculture Economic Research, AER Center. Actually, there are 3 persons here today who are from this network. Myself, also our network, Agriculture Development and Rural Transformation Center, from where I have come on Lian here. Our Shekharji is also in AERC, in the Delhi, in the IEG, Institute of Economic Growth. And Professor Prem Vasisht, who for long he was there in AERC Delhi. He was the director, and he led many studies for Ministry of Agriculture, and also many of those high-powered committees he served there. He was director. Also, he was our colleague at NCAR. Again, Dr. Subbu, myself, and Professor Prem Vasisht, we all have been from National Council of Applied Economic Research, having some time spent there. After his retirement from University of Delhi, he was a visiting professor at Institute for Human Development and Institute for Studies in Industrial Development, ISID. Subsequently, he worked as professor and founding Dean, School of Business Studies, Sharda University, and Professor and founding Dean, School of Humanities and Social Science, Golgatia University, Greater Noida. His other positions include Senior Consultant NCAR and Professor Emeritus at School of Business Studies, Sharda University, Greater Noida. He holds an MA degree from University of Allahabad and PhD degree in Economics from Delhi School of Economics. Professor Vasisht has taught at Delhi University, Boston University, then Sessler Polytechnic Institute, USA. He has been a visiting fellow at the Institute of Development Studies, University of Sussex, UK, and also at Economics Department, University of Pennsylvania, USA. He has been visiting professor at several places. He has very widely published in journals and has 2 books on his credit. And Professor Vasisht has been serving on various committees of Government of India and Indian Council of Agriculture Research, ICAR. He has consulted with several international organizations such as International Fund for Agriculture Development, International Labour Organization, World Bank, and UNDP. He has served as a member of the Common Review Mission of Ministry of Rural Development and also CRM of Ministry of Panchayati Raj, Government of India, Uttar Pradesh. He was awarded with the Kautilya Award in 2021 by Uttar Pradesh and Uttarakhand Economic Association. He was one of the main organizers of the this conference, UPUEA, Uttar Pradesh Economic Conference during April 22-23, 2022 at the School of Business Studies, Sharda University, while he was serving as a dean there. So, very welcome, Professor Vasisht, for today's chairing today's lecture. I also would like to just briefly introduce my colleague CSC Shekhar. We have been working together for long. Professor CSC Shekhar is currently Professor of Economics at the Institute of Economic Growth and former Honorary Director of AERC, Agroeconomic Research Center, University of Delhi. He received his PhD in Economics from Delhi School of Economics and Bachelor's degree in Law from the University of Delhi. I didn't know he is LLB also. He has more than 3 decades of experience in research and teaching in applied economics, econometrics, agriculture markets, and price formation, international commodity markets, and agriculture trade. He has contributed to policy as a member of several important committees of the central and state governments. He was a Fulbright Nehru Fellow at Iowa State University in 2013, received the D.K. Desai Award for the Best Research Paper in Agriculture Economics in 2003, and he was gold medal finalist at the Global Development Network Conference in 2004 and 2008. He has published widely, and many of his research papers have appeared in national and international journals of repute. He has been a consultant to organizations such as IFPRI, FAO, UNCTAD, and Oxfam. He regularly contributes articles for contemporary policy issues in popular national newspapers. I too have been reading many of his papers in the recent past. So we have today's lecture which Professor Subramaniam is delivering on leveraging agriculture and alleviating micronutrient deficiency, experimental evidence from India. So actually, myself and Professor Subramaniam, we have been working together. We have conducted 2 experiment studies, one in Karnataka and the other one in Punjab. One of the paper has been accepted and it is likely to be out within a week in Journal of Development Economics. That was one part of the study which we are undergoing in Karnataka. The other part he will be presenting today on nutrition, basically how the providing extension services to the farmers, how can it lead to increase in their productivity, their income, and also on the health of the family through improvement in their major and minor nutrients. So this is, I think, we are expecting getting a lot of good comments from this forum, and also I request Subbu for contributing this paper for our book, which we will be publishing as a Golden Jubilee lecture series of GIDS. So now I hand over to Professor Prem Vasist to share the proceedings. My colleague Shivshika in the end will be giving a formal vote of thanks and will be concluding. So Professor Prem Vasist, over to you. We can continue for 40-45 minutes, and then we can have half an hour discussion at least, and then your chair remarks. Over to you, Professor. Yeah, sorry. After the lecture, we will have Shekhar as a discussant, yes, and then it can be open for the discussion. Okay. Yeah, over to you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Pramod, first inviting me to share the session and for a very, liberal introduction. Professor Subramaniam, Shekhar, my old colleague, very welcome. And without wasting time, I now request Dr. Subramaniam to make his presentation. Everybody's welcome. Okay, thank you.
Morning, ladies and gentlemen. Let me first share my slides. Okay, so I think I'll get this. Can you all see my slides?
Yes, it's visible.
Yes, sir.
Fantastic. That's great. So thanks for inviting me for this presentation, and thanks Pramodji for the introduction, and Prem Vasist and also Shekhar for contributing to this seminar series. So let me just begin. I have about 40 minutes, I think, so I will try to finish off in time. So as Pramodji just mentioned, it's the topic is leveraging agriculture for alleviating micronutrient deficiencies. So I'll talk about some experiments that we have conducted in Karnataka. And this project is funded by the ESRC DFID in 2013. So my outline would be talk about the motivation, and then present some theory or the literature that already exists in this area. And I'll spend quite some time on the methodology, because I think the key to the whole paper is about the methodology, and then present some results and conclusion.
Professor Subramaniam,
yeah.
Yeah, I think, could you hold your mic a little closer? Probably your voice is a bit feeble.
Oh, okay. Maybe I need to shout. I think maybe that's, yeah, I'm just sitting and nobody is around at the university outside the office, so I can just shout on top of my voice. So I think, is that okay now, Shekharji, or?
It's better now. Yeah.
It's better. Okay.
It's good now.
Yeah. Excellent. Okay. Maybe I need to increase volume or something. No, that's on the other side, I think. Okay, so the little motivation. We know that, I mean, you may be even more familiar that half of malnutrition people in the world are in South Asia, and especially majority of them in rural areas in India, and where the agriculture is their main livelihood or depend on agriculture. So there's a massive literature about Green Revolution and the large agricultural program in the 60s. We still talk about the Green Revolution and see, and also think about if Green Revolution wasn't there, what would have happened to the food security, what would have happened to the malnutrition. And so there's a massive literature on that. But what is actually missing, I think, is the causal relationship, because there are multiple pathways between farm incomes or agricultural programs and the nutrition. Right. So one of the links or the pathways that I mentioned here is just as a conceptual framework to motivate this whole. So when you talk about agricultural productivity and its link to nutrition and health, it passes through several sort of stages, like farm incomes on one side and the farm safe food on the other side. And it also has an impact on food prices and social factors and cultural factors and food availability. And that's not all. It's also that there's going to be a reverse causality, because if there is better nutrition and health, perhaps there is increase in labor productivity, which could result in higher agricultural productivity. So there's also reverse causality, right? So these multiple pathways is actually difficult to disentangle or isolate the impact between agricultural productivity and nutrition. And most of the studies are actually observational studies. And I mentioned two of them. There are many, many studies which links agricultural productivity and nutrition. And this study is on Bangladesh, and then they say that the rapid increase in rice productivity improved weight gain by increasing consumption of rice. And this study does not find an impact. So there is also, the results are opposite to each other, and we are not able to really generalize what the impact of increasing agricultural productivity on nutrition. But there are a few experimental studies, but most of the experimental studies, I think, the most recent was published in Lancet, which is just about agricultural intervention, which is an RCT actually in Orissa. Agricultural productivity increase. I think they do with more with showing photographs or showing videos on productivity, which is more to do with nutrition-based agricultural productivity increase, where they emphasize on crops which could enhance their nutrition, right? So there the problem is that they cannot really distinguish between the impact of the agriculture in general and nutrition-based agriculture. We are not very clear about what these studies are saying. And in our, we make three contributions in this paper. One is we provide a clean exogenous variation in crop income or agriculture income, and then which is through the agricultural program. And then we look at what the impact of both macro and micro nutritional intake, right? And it's also that this is actually quite important because which relates to a lot of literature from Harris-Todaro model and other agriculture-based model like Lewis theory, which is actually saying that when there is an increase in productivity, right, what happens to the labor in the labor market, right? Would labor be absorbed or labor be kicked out of the agriculture sector to the manufacturing or the service sector? Right. So this dual sectoral debate still continues. And what we interestingly find in our paper, which is not part of this paper, but I would just talk about it. It's another paper that we have. There we looked at when there is an increase in agricultural productivity, most of the studies say that, okay, there is the credit constraint is relaxed and liquidity constraint is relaxed. So what happens is the labor moves out of the rural areas of the agriculture sector to the manufacturing sector. And it's also that push and pull factors, and there are several theory behind this, which actually says that when there is an increase in productivity, labor move from agriculture sector to the industrial sector. But what we find interestingly is opposite. When the productivity increases, then there is increase in the demand for labor. So all the family members who are working in the non-farm sector would actually be employed back in the agriculture sector. So the labor demand in the agriculture sector improves as productivity increases. And it's not just about the number of people who are employed increases, it's also the time spent by these household members or family members who own their own plot is also increasing. Right, so both at the extensive margin and the intensive margin increases. Right, so that's about the second point. The third contribution that we make is it's the first experimental insight into whether agricultural growth beyond short run can be leveraged effectively for nutritional improvement. So these are the three contributions that we make. The first and the last. Right. Sorry. So is there a question or something? I'm happy to take question in between if you have, or is just that?
No, you carry on, please.
Okay. So I show you the preview of findings, right? Just to give you a glimpse of what actually results are. If I don't reach till the end, right, 40 minutes is too short. So what's this intervention about? The intervention is about increasing agricultural productivity using a unique technology aided agricultural program, which is called ESAP. Right. So ESAP is the tablet-based intervention that we implemented. So that was actually before, I think in 2012, 13 and 14, we had these ESAP. But after that, in 15, 16, 17, we were using WhatsApp to provide information. So what I talk about here is ESAP, which I think that this ESAP program really helped farmers, which was done in the first 2 years, and we expect that the impact would actually would be there in the next years. Also, which was supplemented with agricultural intervention, information dissemination, with which was done at ICE. So the first experimental evidence is about household labor market response to agricultural productivity, which exogenously varies crop productivity. I'll talk more about this here. So what we find is that the program increased crop incomes by 43%, and the net household income increases by 36%. This is much less compared to what we saw in the Green Revolution period, which was much, much higher than, many times higher than what we see in our agricultural program, right? So there are two micronutrients which I think decreases as income increases. I'll show you a few graphs where we look at what happens to the consumption as household incomes increases. Right, so we see that for sodium and selenium, which are important micronutrients, their consumption decreases. So we do advocate a direct intervention and supplement programs which could really address the sodium and selenium. The incomes, agricultural incomes, cannot solve the problem by itself. Right, so. Okay, let me, since this is an RCT, I usually tell my students to show them this graph, and I think this audience maybe is not very familiar with an RCT. So, let me briefly summarize this, and I think all depends upon how we causally address this problem here. So, in the baseline, right, before the intervention, are you able to see my cursor?
Yes, no problem.
Yeah. Okay. So in the baseline, we have this treatment group and a control group. And Y is the, you could say, crop yield or crop income, which is at the baseline for the control group.
So
and this is the...
So can you put this on presentation mode? There are two screens. now we can see.
Oh, okay.
It will become larger. I think it's in the presentation mode.
I don't know, I have two monitors here actually. So, is that?
No, now it has gone to 3.
No, the earlier one was better.
I think the second one, if you remove, then there will be, it become larger.
Okay, I can't see how. Maybe display settings, display. Oh.
रहने दे, कोई बात नहीं, ऐसे कर लेंगे.
Yeah, yeah, good.
This is perfect.
Is it better?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Perfect.
very good. Very
Perfect.
good.
This one?
Oh,
No?
you come back to the
Okay.
old one.
This is better, right?
Yeah.
So do you also see this panel here?
Yes, sir. At the bottom in the corner, it will be there, sir. Slideshow. It is
Okay.
showing plus minus. You can increase the size also. At the corner, sir. Yeah. There also you
Is
can
it
do it.
is it better
This-
now?
Yeah, yes, sir.
Yeah, so good. Go ahead, please.
Okay. So sorry about this. I have two screens here, and there is this camera in only one.
Yeah.
Okay, that's technology. Okay, so have this before the intervention, we have this baseline which was conducted in 1213, which is a recall. I mean, all of the data that we collect is recall here. And then what we essentially is ensure that in the baseline, right, all the variables that we use in this regression or in this study should not be statistically different from each other in the baseline. Once we establish that, then we conduct this intervention. And then in the post-intervention, we would see if there is a difference between the control and the treatment, right? And that is called the effect size. If there is a difference, which means if the treatment is higher, then we would associate this increase to this intervention. And this intervention, I will tell you in shortly what's it all about, which is about providing ESAP intervention or agricultural intervention or agricultural program. What's involved in it will be talked about in a minute or so. Right, so this is about the RCT, which is not so difficult to understand, but so what's this experimental intervention? So we proceed in two stages, right? Because we are trying to look at not just the provision of agricultural information, but it's also about the crop income or the profits from the agriculture, right? So we want to see the impact of the agricultural income or the crop income on or the household income on the consumption, which is consumption of food and which leads to better nutrition. So the first stage is the information dissemination experiment. Right? The intervention is about increasing agricultural productivity exogenously. Right? So we randomly allocate all the households into treatment and control, right? And then exogenously provide information, agricultural information, only to the treatment households to increase their productivity. So it's all aimed in the agricultural productivity, right? So the ESAP is the electronic solutions against agricultural pest. And here I'll mention one technology that we try to promote, which is the DSR technology, which is okay, nice music. So DSR technology, and what you find is the household earn from all four sectors from crop. They have about 30 crops or so, more than 30 crops: rice, wheat, paddy, cotton, sorry, paddy and rice. same. So then they have a livestock. Almost all of them have a buffalo or a cow. There's also off-farm labor where the household members work as labor in other farms apart from working on their. And they also do non-farm work. There are many non-farm activity, carpentry and welding and so many other ones that that the households do. So the second stage is about post-intervention. We monitor nutritional intake of households. And what we do is we use this Indian food composition tables. There are about 528 food items. And we use these tables to convert the household consumption, which we collected every year over I think 4 years with a gap in between. And we convert that into macro and micronutrients. The macro and micronutrients are converted from the food consumption, and we collected this food consumption across different items, rice, wheat, and within rice, where they purchase it from the ration shop or from market. Right, so there are a lot of detail. I think there are about 48 detailed items that we ask the households, which is primarily a recall survey, and we convert that into the nutrients. Right? So, which includes food consumed both inside and outside the households. Right? To give you a timeline, which is quite important here, I think I just mentioned paddy here, but paddy is a crop which is cultivated twice in a year. If there is if there is water availability, then you have paddy being cultivated twice. And we started off the project in 2013. Right, and in the baseline survey was 2012-13, where we identified farmers and we did the sampling. So that took about 6 months to 1 year. It was quite difficult because Karnataka didn't have a list, and
if you are
approaching as a cross
Request all online participants to please mute their.
I will show you my wallet.
You are causing a lot of disturbance in the lecture.
Okay, yeah, that's our technology. Yeah. Yeah, I think you can also mute all of them. Except
Get me something.
you can mute.
It's or something. Okay. Man. No issue.
I think it's Ravi Kiran.
They're all
Yes.
sitting in GIDS only.
All right. Okay. Okay. They're having a nice chat, I think. Afternoon chat. Chai pani.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, so we did this farmers identification and then a baseline survey with reference to 2012-13. And then we started off with treatment assignment and operating, training the operators, ESAP operators. Then we had these midline survey in 2012-13. And then again in the second midline survey in 2015. And again, the endline survey was 2016-17. So there's a lot of massive data set that we generated in this project, and which remains to be analyzed actually. So most of it is okay. Some nice pictures. Rakshak doesn't appear here, but Rakshak is around, I think.
Rakshak there. He is attending.
Yeah.
Present, sir.
Yeah, Rakshak. Nice to see you. Yeah, so Rakshak did the second part of this whole. He doesn't appear in the pictures here because he didn't use ESAP at the time. So I'm just showing where they use ESAP, right? So providing real-time, comprehensive, and contextual information. The soil testing was done, fertilizer, pesticide information was given, regular update on input and output price, weather information was provided. So this ESAP was in the tablet, and then this is the farmer who is supposed to be cultivating paddy, and he was plowing at that time. And then the same farmer here who, I think after 30 days or 20 days, I don't know, where the crops were there, and they went back and looked at the crop and advised the farmer on this is the red gram crop that you see, and this is the paddy crops. All the information was provided through this ESAP. Right, so some more. This is the cotton crop, red gram again, a paddy after a few more days. Right, so multiple constraints were relaxed actually. So the scientists whom we employed came from different disciplines, and these guys met the farmer every 12th day. And if you want more details, Rakshak can tell you even exact details of what was told and what was asked and how it was done. It's good that Rakshak is here. So the treatment was actually done under his supervision, and it was all done fantastically. And we find some great results, and I think the credit should really go to Rakshak in implementing all these intervention
Thank
in
you,
the
sir.
field. Yeah. Okay. Okay, so that's this is about DSR technology that was disseminated. And if you don't know what is DSR, maybe you guys should know better than me. I've been to the field once or twice, but I think it's the seeds are sown and sprouted directly into the field where there is use of less water and labor. So there is a reduction in cost, but there is also an increase in cost because of high weed infestation, and which leads to employing more people to weed. So it's a trade-off actually, whether the labor increases or decreases. And when the ESAP is used, right, which determines optimal use of labor and optimal way of doing things, which actually the data shows there's a reduction in cost, which increase the profits. I think what I understand is from the data actually. Right, so it was done in regions in the north, two different agroclimatic zones, and in the south in Guti, and here in Singapore. So let me talk a little bit about design, because this is very important when you want to do an RCT where the information dissemination is the intervention, right? So when you have a control and treatment, if it's possible that you do a randomization, we did randomization very different from the literature. Here we randomized at the cluster level, which is the GPs, right? Or the village level, which is at higher level than the household. But the intervention was provided at the household level. Many a time you don't see this distinction, but we had to have this distinction because the information dissemination was the intervention. And we were a bit scared that the control group may be contaminated because of the intervention that we provide to treatment. Because if you have the same households who are in the same village, one coming from the treatment group, the other coming from the control group. So if you provide the information to the treatment group, and it's possible that they talk to each other and they know each other, so the information will flow to the control group, and the control group would be contaminated. It's not biasing; it doesn't bias the results, but the impact would be reduced. So the impact would not reflect the impact of the intervention, but it will reflect the impact of the spillover between these two groups, right? So we didn't want that to happen. So that's the reason why we first stratified all the GPs based on the crop, and then we randomly allocated the villages because we want to keep the control group and the treatment group away from each other, right? And that we keep away through the design rather than physically choosing some other village. So then you would be comparing apples and oranges. So we didn't want to have that. So we randomly allocated the households, and we stratified the households at a higher level so that the households, there were about 30-kilometer distance between a control household and a treatment household. So it's unlikely that the information flow did happen. And we also had the questionnaire circulated where we asked a question in one of the sections asking them whether they are in touch with any of the treatment households. So we ensured that there is no contamination. So that's quite good. So there are about 411 study villages, and of that, 103 control villages and 102 treatment villages, and of that, 329 households were selected from the control villages, all of them done randomly. And we also had this spillover. The idea behind this, for which I don't talk in this paper because I have combined this spillover with the control group here. Of course, it's going to decrease the impact, as you will see. But these spillover households were not provided any information, but these spillover households lived in the treatment villages. Right. So what we want to see is how much of the information.
One clarification question.
Yeah.
One clarification question. How were these spillover households selected? Are they neighbors to the treatment households or any other criterion used?
No, we had this list of all the households in that treatment village, and then we randomly selected one of the households apart from the treatment household. So they are not neighbors, but they live in the same village.
So the assumption is that anyone who lives, any household which is in the same village may have had some spillover effect from the treatment household, right?
Yeah,
okay.
That's what we do find that because the other paper will show that spillover households productivity also increased, and it was as good as the treatment households. Right, so that was a fantastic result, I think, because there are one other study which really finds in Africa that there is a massive, but we find impact which was as equal to as the treatment group, but they found something quite higher, about more than 50% of impact. So there is evidence, and it's also that social network is quite important within the village. We did capture in the questionnaire about the social network. We wanted to ask about who progressive farmers are and how they are linked with the progressive farmers, how much information they gathered, where they get the information from. And social network is quite strong within the village rather than between villages. So we do expect a priori that there is going to be spillover, a strong spillover, and we do certainly find that in the results. Okay, so there are about 30 other crops apart from all these crops that I list here. Paddy is a key crop that I think. Cotton was not really great. Cotton, we didn't make an impact. And the Rakshak tells me that there were lots of bollworms at that time. And BT cotton, I've written a lot on BT cotton, but the most recent paper, I think we show that BT cotton is not doing great in India, and bollworms perhaps is creating problems, right? So here, what I showed you in the form of a picture, I list them here. So the baseline, the reference here, and the survey that was conducted, right? The farm and household surveys across. So we have about 4 rounds of survey, which includes the baseline as well. So what we essentially do is we combine all of them and then compare it with the baseline. And each of them will have a control group and a treatment group, and then we compare between them. So it would be sort of a difference in difference, right? Across space and across time to see what the impact of this. And random allocation of households will give us information about causality. So the impact is a causal relationship that we talk about here, right? So let me show you some results of the first stage, where the first stage is where providing information, agricultural information, and seeing its impact on crop income, on profit, on productivity. So here I show you aggregate crop income. What happened to what happened to the treatment groups after the intervention, right? So we started off this. So all of them begin here, right? And then what you see is the control group did show some fluctuation, but at the same period, you see that the spillover and the treatment households, you see the treatment households live in the same village, the spillover households live in the same village as the treatment households. You see the impact, right? In the first year, they were really catching up, which means all the information that was provided to the treatment was flowing to the spillover households, right? But in the second year, it wasn't, right? Because we also did try to do soil testing and things like that. Maybe I can't really tell you why the spillover households aren't doing good in 2016, and then the difference starts between them, right? But it's very clear that the first year perhaps is catching up. In the first year, which was quite good, the information was clear to them, but after that, probably don't know what really happened. Maybe Rakshak would be able to shed light on this much more. Yes, Rakshak. Yeah, yes. Unmute yourself, Rakshak.
Yes, sir. The second stage at 2016, like that, sir. The intervention we used is crop calendar actually, which is completely in their treatment house itself. So the visits to the household is directly provided in their home as a crop calendar. So I can share the screen of the calendars if you want to see it.
Okay, you can just talk us through rather than showing something.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. The thing is, the interventions directly provided to the farmers in terms of the crop calendars, sir. Not in general talk and not in the in their field also. So that farmers in the second stage, it was second stage actually, that the major thing we want to know that farmer is able to take the dairy written information and the literature written information at the household level. That is why little bit the spillover effect is little bit lower at that period of time. So
Okay, yeah, so I don't think it makes sense, Rakshak. We'll talk about it later, okay?
yes,
Yeah,
sir, yes, sir.
So there was this impact that you see, but what's interesting is relative to the treatment, both the spillover and the control crop incomes were quite high. So that would give us a context where you can compare what happened to the consumption of the treatment and spillover households and relative to the control, right? So I don't split them here, but what I do is I combine them because there are three groups. It would be very complicated. So this is also shown in a different.
So let me give one clarification. Go back to the previous.
Yeah.
If you see this ups and downs, that is basically capturing the weather. There was 2 drought years. So you can see the entire productivity coming down for the spillover as well as for the treatment as well as control. But that was impact of the weather. You can see the graph. But our treatment and the control, it shows clearly that there's a gap is continuously prevailing even in the drought year.
Yeah, that's the beauty of an
Yes,
RCT.
2015 is the drought year for the whole Karnataka, yes, right?
Yeah. It is the beauty that we don't compare with all this is controlled, right? So everything else is controlled except that the intervention is making the difference here, right? So that's why you're comparing it with the control group rather than talking about weather and all this. So all that would be eliminated in the difference, right? So you're always comparing with the control group, right? So here you see this slightly differently in a different form as a crop profit. That was crop income. That was aggregate. This was program year for each of these groups, treatment group. Right? So again, you see that treatment group is is uh, uh, is is much higher compared to the control. Right? So that was just a picture, but here we control for what's happened to the baseline. So a simple regression, we call it ANCOVA. So what I'm going to talk here is the ITT, intent to treat estimates. And this is the outcome variable that we look at. This is the treatment group. 0 is for control and 1 is for treatment. All the households who receive treatment would be 1. It's a dummy variable. And then this is outcome variable at the baseline, which is controlled for, right? So because relative to the base year, you need to really say what's happening to the impact. And that is what is beta 1. This is our interest. Right. So Y is the year fixed effect, and this is the cross section fixed effect, right? Which is a GP here or a village here. Right? And so what we are trying to do is we are trying to estimate this regression and see what this impact is, right? Which is beta 1. It is the intent to treat. But the issue which I would talk about later is that this intervention is about providing ESAP information, right? It's not about increasing productivity. The productivity can go in either way. And so what we need to have here is the profit, crop income or profit, and then look at its impact on nutrition, right?
One clarification.
Yeah.
When you say group fixed effects, that means you are treating these 3 groups separately: treatment, spillover, and control. When you say fixed effects for these 3 groups?
Yeah, it's the no, it's a GP. Is the because there may be other things happening in the GP or the village that has to be controlled for.
It's a Gram Panchayat fixed effects. That means basically it's the somewhat similar to village fixed effects, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
okay.
That's right.
Then
yeah. So we want to control everything else that is happening at that time, and this is time fixed effects. We want to control for what is happening across time.
Group is a little confusing. Probably you may like to change that. Probably you
village
may,
fixed effects. Yeah.
So village or
be,
GP Gram Panchayat fixed effects.
Yeah, GP fixed effects or village. I think we use village fixed effects here.
Yeah.
It's V here, right? So it's village fixed effects. Okay, so that's the result that we see. It's for the household income, right? That's the crop income, which is the dependent variable. This is all 4 sectors actually. So this is off-farm, where households go and work in others' farm. So this is non-farm or households who are working. So this is for all households and about individual members. So we also collected information about how each individual member of the household and where he works and what he does and how much income he brings in or earns wages. And all those details are really captured for each of the household members, right? So this is, if you take one particular household, the household may have some crops, right? And they also work on others' farms to earn some wages. They also, one of the members of the household may also be a carpenter who goes outside and works in the non-farm. And this is a combination of these all 3. There's also livestock, which I don't show because it's usually negative. So they don't earn any profits from it. What you see here is that the crop income increases by 43% in the aggregate. So I've combined all the crops together here, right? Because information is provided for all the crops, and which increased here, right? But what happens at the same time is since there is an increase in the next table will show you that as as the productivity increases in agriculture, more labor is being absorbed, which means the family labor who were working outside in non-farm are absorbed. That's why it shows a negative, although it's just significant at 10% level. But what it shows is it's negative. It shows that all the members who were working outside in others' farms are now absorbed in their own farm, right? And it's also the case that households who were working outside in as a non-farm are now absorbed in because there is an increase in demand for labor in the farm sector. That's the reason why you see, and this is quite significant at even 1% level, right? So when I combine all of them, I see that the total increase in household income is lower than what they got from crop income. Right? This is very, very important because what's happening is when the demand for labor increases in their own farm, all the family members who were working on other farm and who were also working outside as non-farm labor are absorbed in the farm. So the net result is that what the returns they get for the labor is much lower on their farm if they were working on a non, right? That's the reason you find a lower total income, total household income here. So most of the studies which I looked at would look at this as a crop income, but there's a 17% decrease in the total household income. And this is shown in other countries also in Africa as well, because when households really allocate or reallocate their labor from the non-farm sector to the agriculture, of course, the returns to labor in agriculture is much lower compared to the non-farm agriculture. That's why you see the impact is much lower here. Right, so this shows you the extensive margin, which is the number of labor days per year, per acre in this case. One. And this shows the in livestock how much is the how many are the labor who are employed. These are labor days, so it's not the number of labor, right? And for non-farm, the problem here is we have for all 3 years, but for 2014 we did not collect this information about individual members. Right? So we are running a regression for all 4 years here, 3-year post-intervention and the base year, and here is the 2 years after intervention and the base year. Right? So 1 year we did not collect this information here. But this essentially shows that the demand for labor increases in the agriculture sector, while the labor days decreases in the livestock sector and in the non-farm sector. That is holds true for the spillover households as well. Right? So it's not just the number of labor, but it's also the intensive margin, which is the hours worked to total labor per acre. So that also decreasing. So it's not that the labor that is being employed outside the agriculture decreases, but it's also that the people who are working outside agriculture decrease their kind of activities so that they are absorbed in the agriculture sector. So it's not just the number, but it's also the hours that they are spent. Right now, given that we know that the crop incomes increase, the profits increase, the productivity increase, now let's look at the difference between the treatment group and the control group in terms of the consumption, right? So before that, let me show you the baseline nutrient intake, what's happening to our samples. What this shows is the required daily allowance, the ratio of the intake. If it is 1, which would say that they are not deficient. If it is more than 1, they are consuming more than what is required. And what you see is that our sample is not actually full, right? They are on an average. They are not poor. So the average household in the average sample household in our survey is not actually poor, right? But in terms of mineral consumption, they are deficient in calcium, iron, in potassium, right? In sodium, right? Sodium is a bit worrying here. And in terms of, that's about minerals. And when you look at vitamins, the overall vitamin, there is deficiency. And vitamin C, the households are deficient, house members are deficient. Thiamine, they are deficient. Retinol, which is very important, they are deficient, right? So most of this is highlighted already in the literature that these deficiencies do exist in the population in general. Okay, any questions? Let me stop a bit and then. Okay, so now what we do is here the outcome variable is the nutrient intake, and we have the treatment group, and we control for the baseline. That's why it's called over regression, and we talk about the ITT, right? And this treatment is providing providing information to the households, right? So this beta 1 is actually not showing the impact of increase in crop income or increase in productivity, but what is essentially showing is how the treatment groups are allocated. So this is an intent to treat, right? This is a problem because we are not talking about increase in profits or increase in crop income or increase in agricultural income and its impact on nutrition. So what I do slightly is to do a two-stage least squares. Right. So the first stage is exactly what I talked about. So here it's the profit. But if you look at this, the profit is endogenous, actually. Right. So since the profit is endogenous to this whole equation, we cannot say that the beta 3 is a causal relationship. Right. So what I do slightly is do a treatment on the treated. What the first stage is to run a regression of this treatment that I provide to the households and predict the profits, right? And the predicted profit is inserted into this equation to find a causal relationship, and this is beta 3. And this beta 3 is the treatment on the treated, right? It's a two-stage least squares, and that tells you the causal relationship between what happens if crop income increases or the outcome of an agricultural program on nutritional intake. And so that's what is the contribution that we make in this paper, right? The causal relationship. So the regression results are as follows. There are 3 panels here. Sorry. Panel A gives you the intent to treat estimate, right? Which is just telling you what is the impact of providing information to the households, right? But what we want is an IV estimate, which is the treatment on the treated, which is looking at the net household income and its impact on each of these nutritional intakes, right? So the panel B is quite important. And the panel C just shows you the first stage results. And what is important in the first stage is that this has to be greater than 10 as a rule of thumb for the regression to be really valid, right? So in normal terms. Right? So all of them are greater than 10. So I think the regressions hold good. And what is important here is that these are estimates, right, which is in value terms, and these are in percentage. So when you provide the information to the households, the calorie consumption increases by 8%. And it's statistically significant at 1% level, right? So you see all of them are around that number. So it's quite a good result that when the agricultural program really helps improve consumption of calories, proteins, vitamins, and minerals. Fat, of course, is not it's as good as 0, right? So agricultural intervention is good. But what happens to the household income when agricultural intervention is provided, which could or may not result in increase in profits, but in our case we see it's increase in profits or increase in net household income, and then we want to see what is its impact on calorie intake. But it's what you see here is just 0.14%, right? So it's a much lower increase, right? That's worrying because perhaps it could show that we need to substantially increase agricultural income or invest a lot of or provide more information or do like the income has to increase what we saw in a revolution like a green revolution, right? So we need to increase. So this was just a 43% increase in agricultural income, which resulted in about 0.4. But what is interesting is that they are quite significant. They are statistically important, but economically doesn't look very important. Right? So, given this kind of, you'll see this across all these, all the other. Here it breaks down. The minerals are broken down into individual components, and you'll see across all of them they are quite statistically important, but not from the economic point of view. So you'll see here also, and so what we do is slightly differently. We look at the increase in income. What happens to consumption of each of these nutrients as households' income increases, right? Beyond what I'm talking about here is just an average treatment effect for the average household, but we want to look at the range from a lower household income to the higher household income, right? So we do something slightly differently, and we show it in a picture form here. It's a regression with a band, right? So I take a band from here to here in long terms and then run hundreds of regressions across different bands. And then we get some results here. So the dashed line is for the control group and the solid line is for the treatment, right? So what this shows is this is for the calories. As household income increases, the households which receive the agricultural program increase this consumption of calories, but otherwise the calories don't actually increase as household income increases. This result is quite known in the literature, even for the Indian context, that as household consumption increases, people move away from cereal or staple food rather than more of meat or make it more expensive calorie intake, right? And protein also similarly shows the same. The households who receive the agricultural program do increase the consumption of proteins while the households that did not, which is the control households. So fat is quite similar. So it does. It's not similar. It's interesting that as household income increases, the fat consumption decreases. Right? That's what the results show. Vitamins, if the households receive the agricultural program, the vitamin consumption increases. If it does not, then the vitamins consumption actually decreases. So it's quite worrying, but not for the minerals. Minerals, what you see, both the households who receive the program, who don't receive the program, also increase the consumption or the intake of minerals. Calcium is a bit worrying. This I can't explain. It's very difficult to explain this graph. Why is the intervention, agriculture intervention, reducing the consumption of calcium? Whereas if you don't, if you don't provide the agriculture intervention for the control group, the consumption actually increases. I'm not able to explain this. We need to dig deeper into this, why this is the case. But what I would say that since this is the case, apart from agricultural intervention, which has an impact on the other kind of nutrients and minerals, there should be a direct intervention in improving calcium consumption.
So this could be less concentration on animal husbandry, which reduces milk and affects their calcium.
But why it is increasing for the control group?
No, this is basically if you give they have more.
No, it is not. Pramod, what she's saying is right, because the control group it's all about agricultural intervention, nothing to do with
the shifting of the crops, sir.
Shifting from agriculture, from animal husbandry to agriculture. So less milk concentration, which is directly affecting their household consumption.
No, we don't provide any anything on the livestock. Right? So livestock is the same.
Sir, crop shifting, sir. cropping pattern has changed. Some of the times they go for the food grain crops. Now they have shifting towards the commercial crops like cotton, majorly chili. So the livestock rearing has become little bit down. That's why dairy product intake will be little bit lower, and the value for this special valued crop, cash crops, they
So
have increased.
you're linking agriculture with livestock. Right?
Yes, sir. Obviously, because
So,
sir, the thing is, this cotton, cotton byproduct cannot be used for. They are not using for the fodder purpose. Whereas previously the ragi, the paddy, straw, they were be used for the livestock fodder purpose, sir. Nowadays they have little bit reduced the livestock rearing. Yes, sir.
Here the comparison is labor which was family labor, not the hired labor. Family labor which was working in the animal husbandry earlier. Now we have seen the shift towards agriculture because of the increase in productivity. So that
Yes, sir.
might reduce a little bit dairy production and dairy consumption as well.
No, the data doesn't show
same
that.
thing. In another angle, you can see that in the when cash crop will be used, like the Badgi chili we have taken for the treatment. There, the labor work requires higher, sir. So the dairy, they are little bit neglecting the dairy and they are shifting towards the agriculture because of the cash crop. Yeah.
Either way.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we need to look into the livestock, but livestock sector doesn't show that there is a decrease in the income. There's no reduction. I see it's insignificant impact. Actually,
we finish the lecture. We'll come back.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Right. Okay. So now let's move on to other. I mean, you see that the phosphorus, iron, when there's an intervention or no intervention, it does really improve. But sodium, right? Whether you provide intervention or you don't provide intervention, it's decreasing. So it is very clear that we need to provide direct intervention.
Sodium main source is salt, and I don't think salt will be affected by this, any of this.
Yeah. Yeah. No, what it shows is that agriculture program has an insignificant impact. So in general, they have this problem of sodium deficiency, and that remains, whether you have agriculture program or not. So there is
nowadays everybody is telling to eat less salt.
Maybe better education.
Less salt, less chili. Yes, sir.
Yeah, so we should stop doing that. And so maybe I think the right people should be given the right salt, right? So maybe it's something to do with
iodized salt and all that.
Yeah. Okay, so magnesium, zinc also.
One clarificatory question.
Yeah.
One clarificatory question. On your x-axis, this log of household income per day, is it the actual or the estimated from your
It's
model?
actual. It's actual. I use a cross section, yeah.
Okay.
So I club all of them. The years are disappearing, and then they post and pre household incomes. So this is a how do you say this? A band, a moving band. So you take a band and then run a OLS. So you run hundreds of OLS across different bands, and then you plot accordingly. Okay, so vitamin C or thiamine is also showing the same results. Right. Yeah, it's quite interesting. Folate, just a slight increase, but the agricultural intervention really improves. So vitamin B6, if there is no intervention, no agricultural intervention, it doesn't decrease, but the agricultural intervention does increase the intake of vitamin B6. Right. So where does all this come from? I look at different food consumption, broad categories of food consumption in which you will see where it comes from. So cereal consumption, of course, it's the rice mostly, which increases. Then the pulse also, consumption of pulse increases, household income increase, right? So fruits and vegetables do increase see, dairy is increasing. Calcium, so that's a bit worrying. It's not to do with the dairy then. I don't know what happens. We need to dig deeper into explaining that.
Now, one more issue may be water supply for drinking. Nowadays, in rural areas, aqua water supply is also being provided. So that might be one of the reasons for general decline in calcium as well as other salts. Possibly.
Could you please identify? I mean, may I request Dr. Subramaniam to conclude, please, before we get into the discussion?
Okay. Sorry. Okay. If you see sugar, which is increasing, whether intervention or not, meat consumption, of course, is decreasing if there is no intervention, and it seems to meat seems to be true. I think it's mostly to do with higher incomes. So the final, let me summarize what the results are. So intervention improved household nutrition status by 8% across different nutrients. Labor market reallocation from increased productivity diminished its impact, right? So agricultural programs makes households richer. The nutrition intake is responsive, except for sodium and selenium, which require direct targeting with dietary supplements. Thank you very much. Let me stop here and take questions, or you have any suggestions. It will be helpful because these are the first results I'm presenting for the first time. So it's good to have some.
Thank you, Dr. Subramaniam. May I request Dr. Shekhar to please comment?
Thank you, Dr. Vasisht.
Yeah, I think we need a clapping too for a wonderful presentation. Yeah.
So please close the presentation.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, sure. Okay. Yeah.
Now, let me first congratulate the authors for a very comprehensive work, very painstaking and very in-depth work. So I'll limit my comments mainly to the methodology part. Okay, so I think that will be more useful to probably the authors. First of all, my first question is, why did you choose ANCOVA as your methodology rather than more standard diff and diff kind of approach? Because you have a baseline, you also have more than one point of time data. Because one advantage of diff and diff is that we can actually eliminate the unobserved time invariant heterogeneity across households. That's mainly because you also do not have individual fixed effects. So that would have probably given you, maybe you have tried it, or maybe you have reasons why you have chosen ANCOVA. I mean, we want to hear your views on that. Number two is, how were the control groups? How was the control group chosen? We did not see any summary statistics. Was some kind of a matching done? Or in fact, it would have helped if you had put out some summary statistics of the control and the treatment groups. That would have helped in a way. Okay. And then actually your pathway seems to be only through the income side. When you have that intervention, the income of the household is shown to increase, and that income actually then leads to improved outcomes on the nutrition side, right? But then this increase in income, is it only, this increase in nutritional outcomes, is it only coming from the income side? Or is there any substitution effect? Because you have, I don't see any kind of, for example, if your rice intervention is leading to some households actually increasing their rice production, and then from their saved production, they consume a little more of rice, leading to a higher calorie intake. So that's a sort of a substitution effect, which is happening, which is not being captured in these results, because the pathway is only through the income, right? And then what is the effect of price on the income? Because the price effect doesn't seem to have been taken into account, because between 2 points of time, it's not only the intervention that's happening, but also the price. Are these incomes real incomes? If they're real incomes, there is no problem. But if they are nominal incomes, then price effect needs to be taken into account. And then, coming to the nutrition regressions, in 2SLS regression on nutrient intake, you have mentioned one delta GP. Is it the same as the village level fixed effects that you had in the income regressions? In your 2SLS regressions, you have a delta GP in your slide. I didn't understand what it was, basically.
Yeah, so it is V. Yeah, it's a village. Yeah.
It's a delta
it's
V. It's the same as delta V.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Okay. And then again, staying on with your 2SLS regressions, you seem to have put some emphasis on the ITT estimates, the intentions to treat estimates. I don't see how that can be justified, because when you say intention to treat, then what you're giving a treatment, some kind of a technology aided intervention in the rice sector. And that is leading to some increase in the income, which in turn is leading to increase in the nutrition, right? Now, intention to treat, the treatment itself directly does not, what can be the pathway through which it can directly lead to increase in the income? Increase in the nutrition. It can only be through the income effect. So your second stage regressions, the IV estimates, are more meaningful. They can be interpreted in an economic sense, not your ITT estimates. I think the ITT estimates, the focus on ITT estimates to me was misplaced. In fact, your IV estimates seem to be very good. In fact, your first stage regressions are excellent. All your F statistics show that whatever you are doing in the first stage, all those the IV is really relevant. So that's very good. So I suggest that you may like to focus only on the IV estimates, not on the ITT ones. Okay. So then staying on with that IV estimates, then actually your point about only the sodium and selenium consumption seems to have been affected adversely, whereas all others doesn't seem to hold, because once you look at IV estimates, not only the sodium and selenium, but also fat and other, let me just see, there are other groups also. Fats also seem to have very copper and magnesium, zinc. They also seem to be somewhat unsatisfactory. So if you actually change your focus from ITT estimates to IV, then probably your story may change. So this is another. And one thing I could not understand, maybe I have missed something. When you are talking about nutrition, increase in nutrition through the crop income and other things, why take the entire crop income when the intervention is crop specific, is specific to rice? So I think you need, of course, I can understand your methodology, but maybe you need a couple of sentences to justify taking the aggregate crop income when the intervention is crop specific. Okay. With that, I'll stop, but let me again congratulate the authors. Very good work, excellent work, and probably with some polishing, actually you can aim for a very good journal. And one final important point. Would you want to say anything about the external validity of your results? Because to me, it seems that heterogeneous effects are rampant in this particular exercise. Yeah.
Thank you, Shekhar. Great, very insightful comments. Now it's open for discussion. Anybody
respond to
Shekhar?
Or okay, or let me respond to him. Otherwise, there are many of them.
All right, fine.
So
So you go ahead, respond.
Yeah. So the first one is ANCOVA. I think there's massive literature on saying that DID is not efficient when you have an outcome variable that is variable year to year, right? So then ANCOVA is much better. It's not very different because in some sense ANCOVA would be very DID would be very useful in a natural experiment, right, where you have pre and post and not control and treat. So that's the reason why I did with DID also. So just about because referees with the other paper which we have on JDE, the referees were actually saying why you do a DID because I think the referee comes from a natural experiment literature because most of it is DID. But if you look at this paper by in the AER on DID, DID has its problems. Of course, ANCOVA also has its problems, but when the outcome variable is varying from year to year, ANCOVA is shown to much better. Then the control group, yeah. So the control group, I could show you the baseline and pre-baseline because that's the key to RCT because in the baseline, both the control group and the treatment group should not be significantly different from each other. And we see that in this using the data. And the way it was selected is we first in the Bhumi database. Bhumi is the database which includes both which includes farmers, right? We took the Bhumi database and we stratified that based on Gram Panchayat, GPs, right? So a GP, about 4 to 5 villages constitute a GP. In Sirgupa, it's about 3 or 4 because the villages are quite big in Sirgupa compared to the Gupi. Right, so we first, we won't, since we have this intervention, which is at the household level, and since it's about information dissemination, we classified the GPs. And then we had this control villages and the treatment villages allocated randomly. And from the control villages, we randomly chose the control households. Was that your question, right, Shikhar?
Actually, I have a small problem with this. Actually,
Yeah.
you're right. Before the treatment in the baseline, probably the control group and treatment group were alike in terms of the outcome variable. Suppose you are looking at, say, profit or anything. But that does not preclude the possibility of somebody, it does not give the equal probability of for any household to be in the control or the treatment group. That's exactly what matching does, no? I mean, because if you actually match on, say, observable, some of the observable characteristics, say the land quality, land size, and maybe the irrigation.
We have about 300 variables on which we check the baseline matching. So about 6 or 7 they weren't actually.
So because the treatment itself, there may be some kind of a selection bias so that's where the thing, I mean, treatment itself may have been targeted to certain households based on certain characteristics or attributes. So
no, it was done. See, when this control and treatment were selected, we provided the information to the treatment only and not to the control.
So they were completely random. The treatment was completely random. It was not based on me.
Yeah. No. It's there is no selection at all. That's the beauty of an RCT.
Yeah, that's right. But okay. This treatment itself was done by your group, right? So you could have targeted it. Okay, that's right. Okay.
Yeah. So all the households who were part of the treatment group were provided the treatment, and not to the control.
Anyway, I think
Shekhar, he has not provided the table where we had multiple variables, almost 300 variables. They are compared and they are not significantly different.
Okay, you can go ahead. You please proceed. Yeah.
Yeah. Then there is a pathway. Yeah, of course. When you talk about price, right, the price are the same for the control and treatment, right? So whether you do difference in difference or the idea behind this is that it's not just price, but it's also that the labor market participation between control and treatment, right? So the prices, of course, could vary from village to village, but since they are randomly selected, on an average, the price that is faced by the control group will be not significantly different from the treatment group, right? So that's the beauty of an RCT again, right? Across different dimensions, we want to ensure that the treatment and the control group aren't different from each other. And when you do a difference in difference or an ANCOVA, then all this is eliminated. So essentially what you are comparing is what is the impact of the intervention, given everything else. That's what, and in this pathway, what we did is not just household income, but there are a lot of paddy cultivation also there, right? So they have a farm scheme, and these farms saved in their stock. So we valued all that in the market price, and then we included that as part of the income. Though they don't sell it, but we assume that if they had to sell, then what income would they get from? Right, it's part of the household income from this, and the intervention is not just about one crop. I talked just about paddy, but the intervention was provided to all the 34 or 35 crops. So it's not crop specific at all, but it's a very general package, which is WhatsApp audio. It's a very general. Sorry. So it's a very general which looks at pest and diseases across the price information, the weather information. So it's not specific to one crop, but it's crop in general. Yeah, of course, the most worrying thing in an RCT is external validity. It's always the case, right? So what we do in Gobi or Sirigupa cannot be really generalized to other parts of India or to Africa or to any other parts of the world. But many more of these experiments, if done across India or across different parts of Africa, then I would say it's a solid internal validity, but external validity of an RCT, which is a very general criticism, is a point well taken. So, did I miss anything, Shekhar? Okay.
So,
thank you for the comments.
Yeah, additional to you, sir, the information particular not to the crop, but as well as not only the production level, from seed to market, the information has to be has been given to the treatment farmers. That's why the price effect also came in the this study, sir, because the selection of market where has to be sold each and every IT information like Krishi Maratha Vahini, which is famous for in Karnataka, which gives the all the price information in Karnataka of the market prices. Those all treatments has been given to the treatment farmers only.
Okay.
Like seed to seed information has been given, sir. Seed to market, everything, sir. Thank you.
All right. Any other question, please?
Yeah.
From the audience?
Yes. Can I?
Yes, please.
Sure. Please go ahead.
Yeah.
And identify yourself. Just announce your name, please.
I'm Shilp Shikha, working in GIDS as faculty.
Yeah, I think, yeah, thank you.
I have a very small query. I want to know that what is happening to the food basket? Is it diversifying? Is there an enhancement in the quality of food that is being taken, or it's just the quantity effect that is being induced by increase in income? Because my hunch is that if it is not a quality, effect and only the quantity effect that, more food is being consumed and therefore, nutritional intake has enhanced, then it will soon reach a plateau. And it will not sustain. So what is happening to the food basket?
Oh,
Good.
that's a
Diversion has happened.
diversity. Yeah,
Yes, sir.
there
It is
will be
happened, sir.
there,
Vegetable, some of the basic foods to vegetable, like higher vegetable consumption, meat consumption, that changes we have seen, sir, in the result.
So basically, see, when we are showing the nutrition, it's not only the calorie. We are showing calorie. We are showing. What do you mean quality? Quality means moving away from calorie to calorie and fat to carbohydrates, vitamin, and all that.
Yeah, all
Yeah.
kinds of,
So
but it also depends on what food you are taking in, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
every has some component of,
yeah.
protein, some
Yeah.
component of this, some component of that.
That's what Shukshika is showing. Not only we are showing impact of the treatment, not only on calorie but also on vitamins. Some vitamin it is showing goes up. It's showing sodium is going down. Which particular factors is going up? Which particular micronutrient is going down? One can see all those results. It's
Yeah, she's asking about the food basket. So what we
basket.
show here is the fruit and vegetables do increase as incomes increase. There's also dairy consumption, dairy increases. So I think there is diversification. They also consume more of cereals and
Every
pulses
day,
as well.
bakery
Every
items,
carbohydrates.
fruits, vegetables,
So it's increasing actually.
bakery
Yeah.
items.
So,
I
but
mean, if I-
but that's meat is increasing. But I think as household income increases, um, uh, if there is an agricultural program, then you see diversification happening. But otherwise, it isn't really showing for some of them. Like for instance, meat consumption decreases as household income increases. If there is
Okay.
no
I mean, taking,
agriculture.
can I, sorry, interrupt?
Yeah, of course.
Taking a cue from Dr. Shilpika's point, you see, it would be useful if you can also present later on, of course, some tables showing that there is a diversity, food composition changes. You see, because you are deriving your inferences implying that the food composition changes with income.
Exactly.
So it would be nice to have some results presentation on that later on, of course. Okay, just a suggestion. Yeah, any other question?
Yeah, Chairman sir.
Yes, please.
Chairman sir.
Yeah, please go ahead.
This is Dr. Rathore, and
Yes.
right now I am associated with the GIDS Institute for evolution study.
Welcome.
I have been serving in agriculture sector for last 38 years. I appreciate and congratulate Dr. Subramanian for nice presentation. I am highly excited that he mentioned that 43% income from crop has increased. There are a number of studies which says that if given the chance, farmer wants to quit the farming. If it is so lucrative, then why they want to run away from agriculture sector? And then why so many societies are coming in
Karnataka.
Okay.
So this is my just.
Yes. Okay. All right. Please, could you respond quickly?
Yeah, so I think the intervention should be broadly expanded to other parts of India so that you keep the farmers in their own profession rather than they moving out. So it's good that the intervention actually shows that it's profitable and it has to be expanded, and there has to be more investment in agriculture, and which should really help support farmers stay in their own profession and contribute to the world's food security.
Sir, one more thing, we are asking to the farmers whether they want to quit the agriculture. Nowadays, we are also seeing the agribusiness smart entrepreneurs who are coming out of from the agriculture to the agriculture and making the wonders in the agriculture. That's the need to change the agriculture information sectors. and make the farmers to do the agriculture in such a way that a smart agriculture is required now. We can see a lot of examples who are not an agriculturist, who is not this one. He is from some IT sector. He is doing then wonders in agriculture. Many of the interventions of processing that has been done.
Sir,
No, basically,
they are.
Information which you are giving to them is should be broadcasted. That's it, sir.
Okay.
Like Subramaniam sir said.
No, what Rajveer asked, 43% is very huge, and if that
percentage.
is it that profitable? Actually, here we are not saying that there is a increase in opportunities other than agriculture and farmers income is increasing 43%. This is just a nudge, just a treatment given to the farmers, giving them the information. It is not providing alternate opportunities where they can go elsewhere. We are just saying if farmers are better informed, and this is the result of 6 years, 2012 to 2017, and it's a cumulative number is 43%, including all the crops. So it's, if you calculate yearly contribution, then it goes down, say 43%, you divide by 6, 5 years at least, it becomes 7-8%. So that is, you have to see the cumulative effect in that terms.
Oh, I see. So this
Okay,
43 is over 5 years. Okay.
Then it's okay. That's okay.
And also, to draw any policy lessons from this study, like Dr. Subramaniam has said very rightly, there have to be multiple experiments because the externality of this is not very established. RCTs have this limitation. What in one context, suppose in your study you have found 43% over 5-6 years. In some other experiment, in some other context, you may find 25%. So you'll have to do multiple experiments and find out what is the range of income increase, and then one can draw policy lessons. Otherwise, RCTs are not really, they are very micro in nature. I mean, I'm sure Dr. Subramaniam would.
Exactly, Shekhar, what we are saying here, government is providing everywhere. You see the freebies they are providing. Rather than providing freebies, you better inform farmers, better ways of agriculture. That also is very, very impactful. That is basically what we are saying here.
But that point is well taken. That point is well taken. I'm not disagreeing. All that I'm saying is that we should not say that based on this one study, we can say that, okay, yes, give them this intervention and then everything.
That's Subbu already said, no, you cannot generalize.
Exactly.
Can be a different.
You have to have multiple experiments, only then one
we
can.
Had Jubilee where we found our experiment did not work because that's a dry land, and whatever you put, if there is no rainfall, whatever information you give to the farmers, they can't cultivate. Nothing will come out.
Okay. So also varies. Cotton didn't make the information we provided didn't really, and that too in Sirigupa it did not. There were large, small farmers, but cotton did not. But paddy and other crops did make an impact. So it also varies by crop. Whatever you do in cotton did not make a difference because bollworm is actually it's not conventional cotton any longer. So.
Okay, you see, let me intervene. You know that what. I'm just listening to both the parties' arguments. I think then in this context, it would be advisable to put the caveats, the kind of, circumstances, the kind of scenario in which this is likely to be most successful and where it is not likely to be so successful. Okay, that's very important to say.
Yeah.
And okay, all right. Any other question, please? Any other question? Any other participant? Welcome. Okay. If there are no questions, then can I use my privilege to seek some clarifications before we wind up. Dr. Subramaniam, when you say that nutrition, say, improved by 8% or so what do you have in mind? Are you talking some kind of composite index of nutrition? Because this statement is very wide-ranging. you are talking different nutrients. So do you have a composite index to make a comprehensive statement, or what exactly do you mean by 8%? 8%
Yeah, so
can't be,
you're
it
right.
can't,
Yeah.
you know, can't be throughout all the nutrients 8%. So it
Yeah,
should have some.
it's across different nutrients, but that is the ITT impact, right? So it's just the impact of the providing information. So that's the ITT, but I don't emphasize much on that because it's 8% across different, but that does not address the causality issue there, right? So it's just telling you how much information you provide and what its impact across different. If you see all the ITT estimates is around 8.85. That's the reason I said that across all nutrients, perhaps it could be 8% increase if information is provided,
Okay.
not profits. Yeah.
Good. And a light question is that, the question came up earlier about the change in the food basket. You need to give us some more information that if the home produce is a major part of the consumption basket, and it is directly linked with the kind of crops they are growing, and of course via income, makes sense. If the increased income is being used for purchasing some other kind of food, that information would be useful, whether the nutrient increase because of the purchased food or the home consumption, home produced food. Because ultimately your focus is on income. Income is the major instrument pathway. So income could be, spent on other items, and that works very well. So some information is required. So has it impacted the purchased items? Okay. So that information needed. Other thing is that in this kind of studies, nutrition, consumption, etc., is customary and also very useful to talk in terms of some kind of size effect. Size, it could be you can have income or consumption slabs, and it would be interesting to see whether your results are applicable across those consumption or income slabs, or is it just a kind of aggregate? So I understand you're talking of the aggregate overall income. It may, I don't know whether the lower income groups have improved their nutrition component or not. Suppose it turns out that the lower income groups, there is hardly any improvement in the nutrition, then it's a very major concern. And it raises many questions that your experiment, how useful it is, or do you need to, redesign things? Do you need to focus on income groups or land size groups? Some kind of information. So how do you react to that?
Yeah, so the ITT and TOT estimates were at the average level, which is it doesn't look at heterogeneity, but the graphs look at heterogeneity. So what happens to the lower income categories or higher income categories is clearly reflected here. So heterogeneity is taken care in the graphs. Yeah, of course, we say that at the lower part of the income, there is some difference, which depending on what the program does to each of these, but it's not very comprehensive. I can't give you an ITT estimate saying we could do it. The problem with RCT is you're always talking about an average effect because they are randomly allocated, and then you look at the average effect. But the graphs aren't showing a causal relationship. So that's the weakness of the RCT. Maybe a quartile regression may help, but then you would lose the feature of being RCT, or you use a machine learning tools to look at what happens to that. But RCT would not really talk about heterogeneity unless
you see the reason.
Moreover, our number of observation is not that large where we can go into groups with equal amount of this thing, having the confidence that what we are doing is we should have a sample size much larger for that.
No,
Okay, so
sample size is not a problem. The problem is because our design does not allow that, because the way to design that is to have a stratification at the beginning, and then you have randomly select households who are poor, and then randomly select who are households at the middle category and higher again. So
okay.
once you have this kind of stratification, then perhaps we could shed light on this. But when we began this RCT, there was no idea of looking at nutrition, and this idea came up later on. But the larger issue was to look at the impact of productivity. So what we did is we have stratified in terms of small, large, and medium farmers, but it's not equal to saying we look at poor and rich.
No, Subbu, in our for information premises, the size of holding in Karnataka, which we have conducted, it's hardly around 7 to 8 acres. No farmer is having 30-40 acres, so it's more or less.
No. In Zirupa there are. There are.
No, anyway.
Rakshak will tell you exactly.
Okay.
I can also look up.
No. Let me seek further clarification. What I would suggest that even with the existing design, forget about the land size. I would love to see a kind of tabulation by income groups and see what effects. As you mentioned earlier, the graph. I'm not very clear from. It's not obvious to me what graph is telling us. But with the existing results, can you retabulate and say by different income groups, these are the effects? I mean, if possible.
I think that then it will be more clear.
Okay.
And things will be more clear.
It will be possible, sir, but the sample size is very low. As sir
we
said.
leave it to you. Okay, we leave it to you.
It is possible.
You see, we leave it to you, the details. I'm raising a concern from policy point of view, because that's a very major thing, the lower income groups having very high degree of malnutrition. And that's all data show, whether it is the NFHS or other kind of thing. So this major concern remains. And the other policy thing that is coming up as you move up the higher income level, not necessarily the micronutrients are in a balanced fashion, because the issue of obesity in the higher income group is emerging. So these are all policy questions. I'm not expecting that your study relating to agriculture would answer all those questions, but if it is possible through retabulation to throw some light, it would be useful. You don't have to do any new exercise. Just okay. All right. My other, clarificatory question is, when you provide information about technology, and in this case is the direct seeding, for paddy. Are you also making a provision for inputs, helping farmers to procure inputs either through subsidy or through cooperatives or through some other mechanism, or is it just the information about technology?
Just the information.
No.
Okay, so it's just about information, only information. So,
Information.
but I think
Information also
Rakshak and other people,
information also given for credit, accessing market. Those information was provided.
No, good enough.
What he said.
No, good enough. I just want to know, providing information is itself very, very useful, but I wanted to distinguish between a package.
Package has not been given, sir.
So it's just information. Okay.
No subsidy or anything is provided. So,
where
but
the seeds can be accessible, how they can go with the procedures for the taking the inputs in all these sectors. That is also information has been given, not the packages.
Access to subsidy.
Okay, good. And do you have information about the membership of these farmers of certain organizations like self-help groups or cooperatives or some other thing, so that if you have information, you can introduce that variable, see the impact of an institutional support. So this is the institutional support is very important, because the information may be flowing equally to all your treatment groups, but the institutional support may be different. And accidentally, you may find some farmers who are part of an institution who are not a part of the institution. So that effect you can also work out. Okay, so any other question, or would you like to say something, wind up?
In fact, actually,
Shekhar.
one point about what Dr. Vasisht mentioned is that there can be contamination in the control group also.
Okay.
Because of, they also may be aware of some of these things because of their social networks and other things.
Yeah.
So unless we take care of that, it is not strictly a control group. There can be contamination in that control group also. Okay.
Yeah, that's a major problem if it is selectively affecting the control group, right? So they are randomly allocated. So we also have in the questionnaire which asks from where all they get the information, right?
Okay.
So there was no specific thing. So they were all part of the IDF organization. So there is something called IDF. IDF.
Okay, if there are no any queries, let me say that.
I have just one small query, just
Please.
quick. Okay. Dr. Subramaniam, actually, I'm still interested in this ITT kind of thing. So what is the pathway that you have in mind in an ITT estimate in this particular intervention? You just give an information, and how does that lead to any nutrition improvement in, because you are giving information about the agricultural or farm practice part of this.
Correct, yeah.
How will it lead to nutrition? So there has to be some channel, right?
Yeah, so that's the reason why we do a two-stage, right? Because TOT, I mean, it's the same treatment on the treated, which means households who were given information, what is its impact on their profits, and the profit had an impact on the nutrition consumption. Right, so this can be captured only through an ITT, through a TOT or a two-stage. The instrument that we use is the ITT, right? So we want to run a regression. We predict the profit through ITT, right? And then the predicted profit is inserted in the second stage to look at what its impact on nutrition.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. Actually, you should focus
ITT,
more on your two-stage results, because ITT, the pathway you cannot justify. Two-stage is very good. Actually, the instrumental.
So ITT I ignore because ITT is not making sense. That's why we do a two-stage. And then we look at what is impact. So the treatment on the treater is the key variable that we look at. But in the other paper, we only focus on ITT because we are not looking at, we are just looking at the impact of intervention on productivity and other features of the.
So if you look at the only two-stage results, then not only sodium and selenium, but also there are other micronutrients which also are giving some unsatisfactory results. I think you have to have a look at it. Okay.
Yeah, but then we are more worried about, since all of them are the size effect is quite small.
Yeah,
in,
exactly.
Two-stage. So we ignore that. We look at the graph because that gives us a heterogeneity, which means what happens to the people, lower income people, and also what happens to the higher income people. And then we look at a range of different household categories to see what happens to households when they were given the program or households who weren't given the programs, the control.
Then why don't you do that graphing also on the basis of estimated value? Because that is your right. I think you see how it actually compares, because actual values again doesn't make much sense.
Yeah, because we could do that, but then it's not showing a causal relationship. The graph is not actually showing the causal relationship. It's just a ITT relationship across different income categories, right? So we also want to caveat like Prem said, so we would have to really say, okay, we don't look at the cost relationship in the graph, but the cost relationship is, the size effect is quite low, which means we need to have a massive investment in the agricultural sector to really do all these kinds of intervention across in different ways, or also giving other kinds of investment. Maybe a kind intervention to really improve the household income or crop income. Only then, so the 43% is not good enough to increase your nutrition.
In 5
You
years.
need much more. Yeah.
Okay, if there is no other major point, let me say that this talk has been highly intellectually stimulating. I think it has a great potential for policy implications, and as addressing some of the important policy issues. It's extremely sound on the methodology part. Of course, there are questions, as Dr. Shekhar has pointed out, but I think it's a very, very good attempt. We learned a lot, and I wish all the best to authors, Dr. Subramaniam, to you, and I think Dr. Pramod. Are you collaborating with him on this study?
This we are doing together only.
Aye, wonderful, wonderful. So all the best. Best of
Project is based in Isaac only.
wonderful, great, great, great. So lucky. I wish you all the best. Both the authors, wonderful. So please keep that momentum, and wonderful. So we look forward to more such exciting talks. Great, all the best.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. So Premises ji has handed over the dais to us. Now I request
I really
Shikha
thank
to give a formal.
Professor Subramanian for such an interesting, for choosing such an interesting topic. Nutrition is obviously, remains a major concern for all of us. So thank you very much. And also, presenting that RCT model, we have been hearing about it in this institute for quite some time since Professor Pramod Kumar has come here. So thank you for giving us a detailed, interpretation of such an experiment. I also thank the chair, Professor Vashish, for his insightful comments and questions, and such a good discussion with the speaker. We really didn't feel, that we have a smaller audience, because it was such an engaging discussion between the chair and the speaker. I also thank the discussant for his insightful comments. I thank the online audience and Professor Pramod Kumar. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, one and all.